Hey, it's Mazzy. Welcome back to another episode, a reissue, The King of America. Talk about timing. It seems a little ironic that right now, where we are today, The King of America by Elvis Costello has been reissued, expanded, repackaged, a lot of outtakes, a lot of things. I want to talk about this record. It's fantastic, and I love this record. Now, I need to give you a little background on Elvis Costello and my connection musically and enjoyment of Elvis Costello, my introduction to him. Now, before I go back to that, let me just showcase the visual side to give you a little taste of what I'm going to talk about today. Here's my original copy. I was out of the record business by this point, 1986, produced by T-Bone Burnett, who's a very integral part, obviously, of this recording and the sound of this record, how different it was for Elvis at the time. This is a copy I got at Tower Records in San Francisco for the price of $5.99 with hype sticker. The record company directed a single, Don't Let Me Be Misunderstood, a track that was originally done by the Animals and Nina Simone, and they wanted a hit single. They didn't see the commercial potential as Columbia really didn't at the time. This is the new remastered version. I'll talk about the two vinyl versions, but this is the sweet spot. This is the key. Now, I am in on demos and live tracks and alternate versions and related music of a time of an artist when I'm all in on an artist. I did that recently on the Talking Heads 77, and Elvis Costello is someone important to me musically, not just because I'm literally one day older than him. I was born the same year as Elvis, August 23rd. He was born on August 24th. And my first experience was his very first show in America ever, in I believe it was November of 1977. We owe a lot to Bonnie Simmons. Bonnie Simmons was the music director of KSAN Radio in San Francisco, and supposedly she was the first music director who broke Elvis Costello in America, first played this record, My Aim Is True. This is my original UK copy. If you remember the American and the UK, American Columbia, the UK, which was on Stiff Records, their motto was, if it ain't stiff, it ain't worth a fuck. But I think that's a great moniker for a record label. It would never float today. But all the various cover, can you imagine if it was today how you'd have to collect all these covers? I'm sure someone out there has the blue and the yellow and whatever other cover. But I have the UK copy. I think I have an American copy as well. So I do have one other edition. Out of the box, I love this record. So KSAN basically breaks him in America. I was fortunate enough to see his very first show at the Old Waldorf, a Bill Graham club in San Francisco, that great show. I think he played two shows. It was broadcast on KSAN radio at the time. So there are, recordings floating around of that. But the angry young man, the new wave man, the punkish who wasn't really punk, but just his look, his name, Elvis, obviously, Declan McManus, and the new album that I'm going to show here, the new expanded The King of America, really harks back to his original name and persona of some sorts. That jazz master guitar, the whole thing where the jazz masters and Jaguars, the bigger guitars were coming back into vogue because of the new wave and then the noise scene into the 80s. But that was a big deal because everyone was on Telecasters and Gibson SGs and, Stratocasters and everything else. But these were considered unhip since the surf days until around this time. I think Fender actually put a Elvis Costello brown wooden artist edition of that. But I digress. He did a Saturday Night Live thing where he was going to play Lesson Zero. In the middle of it, he just stops and they go into Pump It Up. And I think, as I recall, he got banned for life, which I don't think turned into life. But Elvis Costello had a great run initially. And then for some, he floundered and he went into different musical genres, which I really appreciate. And leading up to this, I have to show this album. Almost Blue, obviously a take on some great Blue Note jazz covers a little bit, but this is his country album, and I think it's a brilliant brilliant album. And this was produced by Billy Sherrill, the great country producer. So this is a wonderful record and an important record. And it really started showcasing Elvis Costello's brilliance as a songwriter and his interest in roots music. He went so many different directions, and I think the audience sometimes didn't follow him. Bringing in T-Bone Burnett, he brings a lot of these great musicians in that are from roots-based, rock and roll-based, rockabilly-based. He has a nucleus of Elvis Presley's touring band, including James Burton, and a lot of ways, the reason James Burton is on here, not only because touring with Elvis Presley, but before that, Ricky Nelson. And Ricky Nelson is to me, made great records. He always gets pinned as that teenage idol and Ozzie and Harriet. But James Burton and that band, the crooner stuff he did, the beautiful ballads, as well as the Hello Mary Lou. There's a certain, mild rock thing. But he was the real deal. And of course, James Burton played with Graham Parsons on Grievous Angel and GP. What a great thing. And then he toured with Emmylou Harris and her hot band. And I saw them early on too. And to me, that's sort of, in a way, the DNA of those Graham Parsons, Emmylou Harris records is all over this King of America. It says produced by J. Henry, in parentheses, T-Bone Burnett. So we have J. Henry Burnett, the real name of T-Bone, and Declan Patrick Aloysius McManus, Elvis Costello's real name. So he was getting back to a certain roots thing, music of his father, who was a band leader, a musician, not really that he was doing country music and everything. But remember, a lot of this comes back and also reverts not only the country and roots of America, but skiffle music in the UK, being from, obviously, the North and coming from Liverpool originally. So great record, great songs, brilliant mistake. Obviously, indoor fireworks, you really realize even more so. Now, going back to songs like Shipbuilding that he did in the 1970s, you really saw a different side of Elvis, where he really got into the craft of songwriting. I mean, Allison, of course, right out the gate, beautiful song, but you understood something. You really got a different sense of his creative force and how great he would be. And if you followed his career, I mean, he did neoclassical with a avant-garde or left-of-center quartet. He's done an album on Deutsche Grammophon called North, which I love, but it's a very minimal, crooner-like album. Obviously, the collaborations with Burt Bacharach as well. But he has done so much music, a wonderful catalog. And again, this is a first of several over the years that T-Bone produced, including Spike and several other records. So before I get into this wonderful 6 CD set, let's talk about the vinyl. My original version, as I said, I got at Tower Records back in 1986. One of the few times I've left shrink wrap and hype stickers on, which is really a shame when I think about it, because this is just a beautiful cover. And I love when an art director and a photographer uses a full frame image as the cover with no sticker. You got to put the hype sticker on, but with no type, I should say, on the cover. And the reissue has a smaller hype sticker here, okay? But there's no details. There's no reference or no specs on what this is sourced from. I think today, in this day and age, a lot of vinyl collectors, not all of them, kind of expect and want that. Is this from a digital file? Which there's nothing wrong if it is, but we want to know who mastered it, things like that, the details on that. We don't have that here. Now, we have Costello King of America 2024 Remastered Edition, includes and a list for the songs, okay? As I just said, as much as I love this, I'm ripping the shrink off right before your eyes to show how beautiful this cover is. Now, in terms of printing and the new version, the original version has more of a deeper, slightly sepia thing, but it's more vivid, maybe more contrasty, more blacks and richer. This is well done, but it's more of that sepia. I think in this case, the original is richer, is better. I just like it, but this is fine, okay? Now, between the two musically, sonically, they're close, but I'm still going to give higher ranks to my original copy, my original American Columbia copy. The new one's good. I think it loses a little detail, but it's not bad at all. So if you didn't have an original to compare it to and you don't have this on vinyl, this would be a nice addition. So that's all I'm going to say about this. I don't think there's any improvement on vinyl wise. Maybe I think they should have done a 2 LP so you get a second LP of some of the demos, because the demos are where this thing shines, and shines big time. So the hero in this video musically is the 6 CD box set. Now this is the case where I would go for the CD set over the vinyl. Now, of course, it's a larger investment, but if you like an artist like this and you want to hear the demos and the sketches of the work and the live concert at Royal Albert Hall, when he veers down to New Orleans and works with likes of Alan Toussaint and others, and he works in Nashville with Rosanne Cash and many others, and Emmylou Harris, this is the hero here. I just enjoy and love this book. I read an entire essay. Most of it's by Elvis Costello. Then there are track-by-track listings. He talks essay about this period, what he was going through musically, career-wise, how this came about. And in a way, and I might be misremembering this, and someone help me out here. I did read Elvis Costello's autobiography about 5, 6, 7 years ago, whenever it came out. It seems to me there are a lot of the essays here are extrapolated from that and maybe adapted for this set with some introductions and things added. Tell me if you know different. I didn't find any credit to that book in here. Maybe I missed it, but I'd like to know that. But it doesn't matter. It works either way. And I love his personal take instead of getting like David Frick or some, former Rolling Stone writer to write the essay, which is nothing wrong with that. We love rock writers and journalists. So the Americana thing is real. And Elvis spent a lot of time in the Bay Area. And when I was looking through this book, I came across this photograph. That photograph, unless I'm wrong, is Elvis and T-Bone Burnett in a long gone, wonderful small record shop in Mill Valley, California called Village Music. John, the owner, was the greatest curator of roots music, rock music, soul music, had a great youth selection of records, and a lot of artists, Elvis Costello, Ry Cooder, T-Bone Burnett, and many, many others would frequent that store. Disc 2 is probably my favorite disc in this entire set, although it's all just wonderful, wonderful music. Disc 2 are the demos, the sketches, the outtakes. When we talk about sketches, we mean the preliminary versions. A lot of acoustic music, very unplugged, mostly guitar-based, but some piano-based. And you hear his early creations that would turn into these fully realized versions on the final record. I just adore this. It's bookmarked by 2 pieces, one called People's Limousine here, and that's by the Coward Brothers. And then the second to the last track is also by the Coward Brothers, They'll Never Take Her Love From Me. And the Coward Brothers are this great, early, around this time, adjacent duo of Elvis Costello and T-Bone Burnett as the Coward Brothers. And it's their sort of version of the Everly Brothers, the influence of the Everlys. In a lot of ways, that's why that photograph at Village Music, Elvis Costello is holding Warner Brothers, Everly Brothers records, which I just adore. I love that about it. But interesting enough, too, timing-wise right now, the first Coward Brothers album is just coming out in the next couple months. So I'm looking forward to that as well. But they did record a few songs that were on, Out of Our Idiots, that comp of various singles and parts and pieces Elvis put out years ago. They did a version of Baby It's You, that song that was also covered by the Beatles. So it's great to have that on here. Indoor Fireworks, a version of that, and it ends with a twilight version, as he call it, of American Without Tears. That ends disc 2. And then disc 3 is a live disc of Elvis Costello and band playing most of this record and some of his other songs at the Royal Albert Hall. And the band is a killer band. Again, we got James Burton on lead guitar with his pink paisley guitar that Graham Parson, yells out in Grievous Angel. You have Jim Keltner, of course, holding the beat down. That he just really is in the pocket all the time and holds that down. Great drummer on there. You got Jerry Sheff on bass, who also played with Elvis. You got Bentmont Trench from the Heartbreakers on keyboards, and you got T-Bone Walk on guitar, accordion, and mandolin. All the sound of this collection are great sounding. You're not getting funky, archival bootlegs just for the sake of putting something historic that sounds crappy. None of that is in this particular collection. And then disc 4 is really an interesting set. We get in this kind of Creole French title, which I'm not going to even attempt to pronounce, but there's a beautiful ballad or a beautiful collaboration with Lucinda Williams, and there's another Heart-Shaped Bruise with Emmylou Harris, and that's live in Memphis. You got live in Montreal Jazz Bedlam. You got a really variety of stuff. Now, it's not all New Orleans centric, but it's New Orleans based. You got the Dirty Dozen brass band on a song, The Monkey. So that is all really kind of New Orleans centric, even though it's not all recorded in New Orleans. And on this album, there is that feel to it. It's not all just an Americana country record. There's Creole influences. Obviously, when Elvis Costello would come to the Bay Area, go to a Village Music, I'm sure he went to Down Home Music in El Cerrito and Chris Strockwitz, who founded Arhoolie Records. And you have a lot of Tejana music, Creole music. So you got accordion, you got that mixed sort of French sound mixed with the Creole thing going on. And it's really a beautiful, there's segments of accordion on this. And of course, in his entire career, T-Bone Burnett would use that in records he produced by all the other artists for the most part. Everybody worked on with Los Lobos and other artists. That's what makes this a brilliant album. This ain't no brilliant mistake. This is a perfect record. And I think it's grown in stature. And on disc 5, you get a little more Nashville-centric, somewhat. You have a demo of Condemned Man. You have a collaboration, Red Wicked Wine, with Ralph Stanley, who wrote Oh Death. What a great traditional kind of gospel-y country piece. The Scarlet Tide, which is live at the Grand Ole Opry with Emmylou Harris, Gillian Welch, and David Rawlings, and that's beautiful. Disc 6 continues with the tradition of songs that have a feel of the King of America. All these songs are not centric to King of America. They're not all outtakes, not all exactly related pieces of work, but it's part of this DNA of this sound that we would know as Americana. There's a song here called April 5th, great supergroup maybe, with Rosanna Cash and Chris Christopherson, and you have something, a version here called Memphis Magnetic version of Indoor Fireworks. And That Day Is Done ends, that kind of great gospel-y number that he wrote, ends with the Fairfield 4. So not everything is chronologically specific to the King of America, but it all has that DNA, that mood. And the scripture here, if I can be so bold as call it scripture, he gets personal about his career, the ups and downs, the influences of people he met, specific times. And I really urge you, if you like what you read in here, if you do get this set, read his autobiography, because it's truly a wonderful autobiography, and someone who is so in deep with various musical genres. I think that is something that attracts me to Elvis Costello, because I take pride in opening my mind up to different genres. Now, do I like every artist? Every time I do these videos, someone says, you forgot that artist and that. Of course, I don't know them all. And I don't love everything, but I've always been open to it. And artists like, whether it's the Beatles, the Stones, Talking Heads, Elvis Costello, have introduced me to other genres and brought me into it. And even if an album isn't totally successful on the first time around, sometimes it takes time. In this case, we're almost, 48 years since this album originally came out. I think, again, This is a brilliant multi-CD set. And this is where CDs shine. Would I like all this on vinyl? It'd be interesting, but I think it's better having it as 6 CDs to just to let it play through and get into those demos. Although, when it comes to the vinyl version of it, I think it personally it should have been a 2 LP with 1 disc of maybe a portion of disc 2. I think that would have made it that much better, because the single vinyl, especially if you have the original vinyl, is not necessary. But again, I'm sure there are people out there that skip this time around, or a different generation. So if that's what you want to do, get into it. One of my favorite archival releases of this year, and when I do my best of list, this will probably be included. Thanks for watching. Thanks, Elvis Costello. Happy birthday next year. Next year. I did bump into Elvis once, literally. There used to be a restaurant in New York City called the Spotted Pig. It was kind of a really good brew pub. And it was so packed one day. I used to go there when I was working 2 months in New York City. And it was so crowded. I turned around and I bumped into this guy, and it was Elvis Costello. And I said, "Nice hat." And he looked at me. I don't remember if he said "nice hat." He was with Dinah Krall and a group of people, and they had a little table set up. I had to wait for a table at the bar, or a seat at the bar. Anyway, thanks for watching. Elvis Costello's King of America. Mazzy loves you.